hear a whole lot about how she would be different from a Biden administration.
Yes. All right. So that's the mainstream media mentioning how they were surprised how there was no substance in Kamala Harris's speech. Welcome to the Carl Jackson Show, by the way, your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. We're talking about KamalaFeld, a playoff of Seinfeld. For those of you that may not know, that was a show about nothing. This is a presidential campaign about nothing. I know, Kate, that was a pretty good line. We're going to go through some of the lies that Kamala Harris told during her speech. This thing was full of lies. Guys, I know politicians lie all the time. I get it. But you're a human being, too. You lie, too. But not like politicians, and definitely not like Tim Walz, and not like Kamala Harris. I expect to hear exaggerations. I expect to hear some lies or over exaggerations that are on the cusp of a lie. What I don't expect to hear is lie after lie after lie that are provably false. That's all we saw with Kamala Harris's campaign the other night. Gabe, let me know when you're there because I don't want to ask for video. So Gabe is going back and forth. Okay, all right. I didn't want to take him from his children. Gabe is doing a good deed today, working on a day that he should be off. But we got to get some podcasts done. So I appreciate that. Anyway, make sure you subscribe to the podcast wherever you go to get your podcast, Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. I'm going to prove to you that this is a campaign about nothing. All right. This lady is dangerous. And when I say nothing, it's more like the same old, same old. This is all fluff. We all know that this is fluff. We all know that lady is a disaster. As a matter of fact, the vast majority of Democrats knew she was a disaster just a month ago. A couple of months ago, they were still talking about removing her from the ticket so that Joe Biden had a chance to win. And then you had the June 7th debate, and all of that went out the window. All right. But this chick is still a disaster. She's 60 years old, and they're nearly 60 years old. And they're trying to pretend that after decades of working in the government sphere, that somehow overnight she's changing her views. This chick hasn't changed her views. She has not changed her views. So we'll go through some of these lies. And we'll take them one by one. But first off, she started with January 6th. Okay, so she claimed that Donald Trump sent an armed mob to the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, basically fanning the flames, trying to keep that hoax going. After politicians, she said, in his own party, begged him to call off the mob and send help. Let's go ahead and roll video clip number 10, por favor, Gabe.
Consider his explicit intent to set free violent extremists who assaulted those law enforcement officers at the Capitol. His explicit intent to jail journalists, political opponents, and anyone he sees as the enemy.
Okay. All right. I hope that you can appreciate, and when I say appreciate, I hope that you have disdain for this freaking liar. She's in office right now, and she thinks that you're so dumb. She's the one, along with Joe Biden, that has literally, and the Obamas, that literally weaponized these institutions against the former president of the United States. They're doing it now. They decided to have a bunch of cases. Why do you think, if you have comment, I don't care if you hate Donald Trump. I really don't. Ask yourself, if you have any modicum of common sense, wow, they could have brought, if these cases are legit against Donald Trump, why didn't they bring them years ago? Why are they bringing them? Why did they just decide to charge them, all of them, during an election season after he announced his candidacy? Why did they just do that right now? Just ask yourself. January 6th, Trump said, go and peacefully protest. You had nearly 1 million people there that day. Listen, no joke. No joke, I'm Biden. You had nearly 1 million people at the Capitol that day. You had a few hundred people that got out of hand, and none of them were armed. It was not an insurrection. None of them were armed. That is why initially they were just charged with trespassing until Joe Biden, the evil, corrupt, worst president ever, put pressure on DOJ head Merrick Garland to up the charges, to put some pressure on, because they needed the narrative, he felt, in order to defeat Trump, that Trump had just staged an insurrection. Even then, Joe Biden must have known that he sucked as a president. This J6 stuff is a lie. And then you had the real insurrectionists in 2020, where Kamala Harris literally bailed out people that destroyed our major cities across the country. BLM rioters, Antifa rioters worked with a organization to bail out people that caused billions and billions of dollars worth of damage. People died, many people injured, and this soft on crime, oof. She is the one that we should be concerned about, weaponizing these institutions against us and giving favor to people that will cause us harm. This lady is a complete and utter liar, and she is a disaster. When you have, let me make sure that I get this right, because we played that initial clip coming out. But when you have mainstream media, it tells you that they don't think. I've heard some people say she delivered a great speech. I'm like, NBC. I'm like, did we watch the same speech? She initially, I'll give her credit, she sounded authentic, which surprised me. And I was like, oh, maybe this speech is going to be better than I thought. And then it was the same crap that I heard all week long. And I didn't think she read it that well. I think by far, Michelle Obama blew the roof off the house. She's the best speaker by far. I'm sorry, in the political realm. And I don't like her. I don't like her, and I don't like her policies. I don't like how she and her husband, in my opinion, set us back in race relations in this country. 50 years. They destroyed our healthcare system. Can't stand them. But she's a great speaker. Kamala Harris is not. Her tone just sounds so whiny. Just grating. I think worse than Hillary Clinton. Worse than Hillary Clinton, in my opinion. This lady is a complete fraud. Let's move on. Number 2, the Supreme Court presidential immunity decision. She railed about that. That's another lie. By the way, before I go any further, I just want to remind you that today's show is brought to you in part by MyPillow.com. You've asked, and MyPillow listen. They're finally bringing you the most requested offer ever. Right now, you can get the queen size premium MyPillow for only $19.98. Guys, you're going to need some sleep, because this season this is the craziest election season I think that I could ever imagine, frankly. So you're going to need a good night's rest. All right. MyPillow will give you that. So MyPillow is made with a patented adjustable feel. It adjusts to your exact individual needs, regardless of your sleep position. It helps to keep your neck aligned and holds its shape all night long, so you get the best sleep of your life. But that's not all. Get their 6-piece kitchen or bath towel sets for only $25 right now. The brand new mattress topper is as low as $69.98, and their famous MyPillow bed sheets for as low as $25, and so much more. Go to MyPillow.com or give them a call at 800-858-0263. Again, MyPillow.com, or give them a call at 800-858-0263. Use the promo code Carl, C-A-R-L, to get huge discounts on all MyPillow products, including the premium queen size MyPillow. That's just $19.98. That's the lowest price ever. Don't delay. Order today. Use the promo code Carl, C-A-R-L, MyPillow.com, or 800-858-0263. And also, today's show is brought to you in part by Priority Gold. Economists are warning that massive tax hikes could devastate your IRA and your 401k account as the stock market braces for impact. And guys, if you haven't heard what Kamala Harris wants to do with your 401k accounts, with investing, taxing unrealized gains, this is scary. We're living in scary times. This lady cannot get elected. With inflation on the rise and global uncertainty looming, it's clear why central banks and savvy Americans are turning to gold in times like this. Proverbs 21:20 reminds us to preserve what we built. Right now, that wisdom points us towards gold. So if you haven't had your eye on gold, you better make it a priority. My name is Carl Jackson. I'm urging you, call my friends and Priority Gold to find out how they can help you diversify your savings with physical gold and silver. Call 1-800-405-GOLD or visit prioritygold.com/golden for a free gold info guide. Plus, see if you qualify for free shipping and storage. Act now to get your portfolio working for you while the market is golden. Call 1-800-405-GOLD to speak with a gold specialist or visit prioritygold.com/golden to learn more. That's 1-800-405-GOLD. All right. So she talked about the Supreme Court, another lie, and the presidential immunity decision. And she said that the U.S. Supreme Court, and by the way, hat tip to the Federalist for this column, and they outlined it great, perfectly here. But Kamala Harris said that the Supreme Court there's recent decision on presidential immunity by claiming, that she distorted the U.S. Supreme Court's recent decision on presidential immunity. By claiming that the decision means that Trump, listen to this, would be immune from criminal prosecution. Guys, who's the VP now? Who's the president now? Yeah. So that Supreme Court decision would apply to them too, and all future presidents going forward. This is what she said. And I'm quoting, his explicit intent to jail journalists, political opponents, and anyone he sees as an enemy. That's part of what we heard. His explicit intent to deploy our active duty military against our own citizens. Remember, the left, they're always projecting what they'll do. So does she want to activate the military against us? She's big on, she's anti-2A. Maybe she would. She's a gun grabber. Maybe she would. Just imagine Donald Trump, she went on to say, with no guardrails, and how he would use the immense powers of the presidency of the United States, close quote. We don't have to imagine. He's already been in office, fool. I can't stand this chick. I can't stand her. This is misleading at best. Actually, it's just a straight out lie. The majority of justices determined, listen to this, that presidents possess absolute immunity for, quote, actions within his conclusive and preclusive constitutional authority, close quote, and at least presumptive immunity for official acts. But they separately noted that there is no immunity for unofficial acts. So you have to go to court and figure out if Trump did something, if Biden or any other president did something that was an official act or unofficial act. And once you get that decision, you can go from there. This chick just straight up, it's disgusting what they're doing. The third lie, Trump's record on entitlements. She claimed that Donald Trump tried to cut Social Security and Medicare. Guys, if you go to Kamala Harris's website, there's no policy positions. She's a blank slate. She's KamalaFeld, a presidential campaign about nothing. Why would she do that? Years ago, a politician told me, listen, if they don't tell you what they stand for, never vote for them, because that means that they're going to go into office, right? They're going to go in for themselves, or they're going to fall prey to every trapping that you could imagine in office, all the power, the greed, that comes with that. Don't ever trust a politician that's not going to say, I'm going to D.C., I'm going to the state capitol, I'm going to the city commission, or I'm running for city commissioner because I want to fight for this. If they can't tell you why they're fighting for you, then they're in it for them. That was a great line, Gabe. You should save that. If Kamala Harris can't tell you why she's fighting for you, her website is blank on policy. Her speech at the DNC was blank on policy. If she cannot tell you why she's fighting for you, she's in it for herself. It's as simple as that. This chick is a straight up liar. She's worse than Biden. And I didn't think it could get worse than Biden. I'm sorry. School funding. During her speech, Harris attacked Trump for pledging to get rid of the Department of Education. She said, quote, we're not going to let him eliminate the Department of Education that funds our public schools. Guys, do you think the Department of Education funds our schools or just tries to rule over them? I'm going to give you some stats. that are well within her grasp. She would know these stats because she's the sitting vice president of the United States of America. Even left-wing fact checkers called her out on this and said, oh, it needs context, what she says. The federal government does finance public school systems. Those funds typically account for less than 10% of taxpayer monies given to schools in a given year. Less than 10%. During the 2019-2020 school year, for example, 47.5%, and I'm quoting from USA Facts, 47.5% of funding came from state governments. So the states fund their schools. The other half, or 44.9%, came from the local government. So your city, your county, and the federal government tipped it off with 7.6% of the school funding. And that's just so they can have their claws in destroying the school system and not allowing your kids to be as smart as they could be. Some of it has to do with lunch programs and all that. So they try to get their claws in everything. And then once they get their claws in the school lunch program, then they'll get their claws on academia. That's what they've been trying to do. The Department of Education has been an absolute and utter disaster. We've slipped from being number one in education to like mid-30s since the inception of this organization. And then she talked about her middle class roots. This chick can't relate to the middle class. This is the fifth line. She can't relate to the middle class. Guys, we all know this is a privileged chick that in part slept her way to the top. Let's just be real. We all know the story about downtown Willie Brown. All right? We all know the story. This was a chick that would do everything to advance. And quite frankly, she didn't need to, except she didn't have the talent to advance otherwise. But she is purely ambitious. She will do whatever it takes. And she has done, apparently, whatever it takes, including stabbing her boss, Joe Biden, in the back. Don't think she didn't play a role in it. There's no way Nancy Pelosi could threaten the 25th Amendment against Joe Biden unless Kamala Harris said, yeah, I'll do it. There's no way. She'd have no leverage. Middle class roots. Both of her parents were PhDs. The neighborhood that she talks about, she went on and on about her mother. And I thought it was a nice story, frankly, but she went on and on about her mother. And that's nice. Her mother struggling and this and that and raising these girls in this middle class neighborhood. The position her mother held as a doctorate, as a cancer researcher, was the equivalent of a 6-figure salary in today's world. The house or the neighborhood that she's in, that neighborhood today, those homes go north of $1 million. All right. This chick and her dad was a PhD. Yeah, she's middle class. And honestly, I'm not knocking. I don't care if you're rich. I don't care if you're middle class. I don't care if you're poor necessarily. Well, I don't care if you're poor. That's of no concern to me. I mean, as a Christian, I want to help the poor where I can. I don't want the government doing it. I believe that's my responsibility wherever I can. This lady is just a fraud. She's a liar. They want her to be a blank slate. They want her to be a blank slate so her people can make up whatever the heck they want. She's a liar. Middle class roots. She's a privileged little spoiled kid. And she's grown up to be a spoiled adult that's gotten her way. That's why people can't get along with her. She's a spoiled brat. And now she's running for the presidency. Sorry, I'm just fired up. I want you guys to hear this. This is video clip number 4. She tried to play like she's going to bring peace to the world. She has to placate the Hamas protesters that were outside the DNC convention trying to get their way because they know that they have Kamala Harris's ears. Those Hamas protesters, they know they have Kamala Harris's ears. So here's how she tried to split the baby with the bathwater. Cut number 4. Por favor, Gabe.
With respect to the war in Gaza, President Biden and I are working around the clock because now is the time to get a hostage deal and a ceasefire deal done. And let me be clear. And let me be clear. I will always stand up for Israel's right to defend itself And I will always ensure Israel has the ability to defend itself, because the people of Israel must never again face the horror that a terrorist organization called Hamas caused on October 7, including unspeakable sexual violence and the massacre of young people at a music festival. At the same time, what has happened in Gaza over the past 10 months is devastating. So many innocent lives lost. Desperate, hungry people fleeing for safety over and over again. The scale of suffering is heartbreaking. President Biden and I are working to end this war such that Israel is secure, the hostages are released, the suffering in Gaza ends, and the Palestinian people can realize their right to dignity, security, freedom, and self-determination.
First off, could you stand hearing that voice for 4 years? I cannot. Yeah, call me a misogynist or what. I don't give a flip. This lady is an utter disaster. Oh, and breaking news, by the way, in that video clip, she actually admitted that she's the vice president of the United States. Did you guys catch that? She and Joe Biden are actually in the White House working together. All right, this proves that she's a complete disaster. Guys, let's just put this in context. Under Kamala Harris's reign, Afghanistan fell to the Taliban. We gave billions and billions of dollars of military equipment to a terrorist organization. We allowed 13 service members to be murdered. We watched a Chinese spy balloon cross our entire country to spy on us and get military information from us. We've seen Russia invade Ukraine. We've seen Hamas attack Israel, and this chick wants to sit here and tell you that she's going to stand for Israel when she didn't even want to speak to Benjamin Netanyahu when he recently visited the United States here. Are you freaking kidding me? She's trying to play both sides. She's trying to get the Jewish vote or retain the Jewish vote and the pro-Israel vote, while at the same time trying to placate freaking terrorists. Listen, let me tell you something. There is no in between. It's one or the other. I pray to God Israel decimates Hamas. You've got over 60% of people in Gaza that want Hamas, that voted for Hamas. You know why? Because those people like terrorism and they hate Jews. And she wants to placate those people. She talks about the humanitarian aid and the hostages. She's working on that. You're working on that. It's been damn near a year. If you're working on that, all you have to do is unleash. All you have to do is unleash the IDF. Go finish the job. Get it done. Get your hostages. As a matter of fact, it's her fault and it's Joe Biden's fault. They've tried to handcuff Benjamin Netanyahu. And that's why now Israel's like, oh, screw it. If this chick gets in, we're screwed. They're even withholding military aid from Israel. And it's not like we're just giving them weapons. They share, Israel shares military stuff with us, including weaponry, including, surveillance and intelligence. We've got a give and take relationship, and they buy the equipment. Bring the hostages home. If you hadn't been tying their hands behind their back, fool, more of these hostages would have been brought home and alive. This lady is a disgrace. And that just proves to you, you're looking at if you think we're close to World War III now, if this chick gets in, it's all hands on deck. Nobody respects Joe Biden. They respect her even less. It'll be a disaster. The only people that will respect this chick are those European metrosexuals. Can't stand her. I can't. I'm sorry. I can't stand this chick. Trump tax cuts. She lied about that. She insinuated that the 2017 tax cuts approved by Trump disproportionately benefited America's wealthiest citizens. At the time, I remember railing against Trump because he was saying that rich people were going to have to pay a little more. And I was sitting there saying, what about just a flat tax? Because you don't punish success. Successful people, guess what they do? They create jobs. They create jobs. You don't punish it. And you want poor and middle class people to look up to them and say, how do I get there? Why? So that they can help create jobs, even if they're not entrepreneurs. If they have the money to spend, maybe buy a house, they're going to have to use, contractors, or they're going to have, in the future, plumbers, painters, so on, etc. Money spreads around. This lady, she is just such a liar. Such a liar. It's despicable. So she said Trump's fights for himself and his billionaire friends, except he's lost so much money being the president. It's a shame. He's starting to gain some of it back. The guy didn't even take a paycheck. Honestly, I think he needs to mention that. I'm going to do this work for free, because he has. Not to mention they've done everything they can to destroy his businesses. I didn't even realize that the PGA Tour would play on some of his golf courses. I didn't even know that. I'm not into golfing. I guess I kind of like the game. I've never played besides going to a driving range a couple of times, but they've destroyed his businesses. This is just frustrating. And he will give them another round of tax breaks that will add up to $5 trillion to the national debt. How much have you guys added to the national debt? And with all the spending, you came out with your price gouging plan. You want to tax people's unearned capital gains. Some of her economic policies would amount to, they're estimating 1.7 or nearly $2 trillion of additional deficit spending, which would send us into a Great Depression if this chick gets in. She is just a complete and utter liar. Tax cuts means that you get to keep more money in your pocket. I wish they would call it something different. It means when you work hard, you deserve to keep more of that money. Not these corrupt politicians like the Obamas, like Nancy Pelosi, like AOC. They go to Washington, D.C. How the hell did AOC get rich? She was a bartender. Now she's a millionaire. How does that happen? The Obamas worth, 70 million at the least, and more. I've heard estimates of, 100 something, $200 million. I don't know what's true, but even if they're worth 70 million, just 70 million. Oh my goodness. What were they worth before they got in? A few 100,000? Which actually, for me, wouldn't be bad. But listen, I mean, it's just insane. Trump's tariff policies. I don't like the tariff policies, but I understand what Trump was trying to do in containing and using the tariffs against China. Ultimately, we pay for it. So I would hope that the idea would be at the end game to try to bring as much manufacturing back to the United States as possible. Cut regulation so it's not so hard to create products here, and then just trade with our allies. Go back and forth with our allies with different trade agreements. Then she lied about that Trump was signing a federal law authorizing abortions nationwide, and or she lied that signing a federal law authorizing abortions nationwide would restore reproductive freedom, as if people lost it. Women are sadly having abortions. They had 25 at the DNC in that little trailer. Women are having way more abortions, sadly, since Roe v. Wade has been overturned. GOP pro-life law. She claimed that the Republican pro-life laws that protect thousands of unborn babies from elected abortions bar doctors from treating women dealing with a pregnancy-related health issue, such as a miscarriage or ectopic pregnancy. You guys realize that you're talking about less than 1% of these people. Just make up stuff. Even when it comes to incest, rape, like that's less than, and I'm not minimizing it, but it's less than 1% of the reason why babies somehow, there's a miscarriage or abortions or whatever. It says here, she said, "I will tell you, over the past 2 years, I've traveled across our country, and women have told me their stories. Husbands and fathers have shared theirs. Stories, those aren't real men, by the way. Stories of women miscarrying in a parking lot, developing sepsis, losing. What is policy? What does politics have to do with women miscarrying? Losing the ability to ever again have children, which happens, by the way, when women have abortions. They mess up their system to a point where it's possible they won't have children again. All because doctors are afraid they may go to jail for caring for their patients. Caring for your patients, you're killing a baby, you liar. How is that caring for a patient? You're not reproducing anything. You're killing a baby. It's the opposite of reproduction. Learn what the word means. Couples just trying to grow their family, cut off in the middle of IVF treatments. Trump doesn't stand for that. I disagree with it, but he doesn't stand for it. Trump's position on abortion is send it back to the states. On IVF, Kamala Harris insinuated that Trump is to blame if couples are cut off in the middle of IVF treatments. But he is openly touted in vitro fertilization, even though it's, there's ethical problems with it. So she just lies. Disastrous border bill. You know what that border bill that they're lying about? And by the way, she reminded us that she's actually the VP. You know what that border bill would have done? All the illegal immigration that we were experiencing just a few months ago, it would have made it legal. So all of those illegals coming in, up to 1.8, I think it was, million per year, they would have codified that into law. So the people, 1.8 million illegals could come into our country. We didn't have to vet them anymore. They could just come through. That was along with legal immigration. That was the bill. It crazy. She falsely claimed that Trump, quote, encouraged Putin to invade our allies. They did that under you. I just can't take this chick, man. America's enemies. She claimed that tyrants and dictators like Kim Jong-un are rooting for Donald Trump to win this November. The Federalist says, while there is no definitive way for Harris to know this, the actions of America's biggest adversaries in the years since she and Biden assumed the White House suggest the exact opposite. Thus far, Russia has invaded Ukraine. Iran backed Hamas, launched a deadly terrorist attack on Israel. As I mentioned before, North Korea disavowed potential peace with South Korea since Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have been in office. And China has ramped up its threats towards Taiwan, Japan, and the Philippines since the week Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have been in office. If this chick gets in office, you're going to see wars break. I hate it. It's just true. We all know it's true. This lady is a paper tiger. This lady is KamalaFeld. A presidential campaign about absolutely nothing. Before I go, I want to play one more video for you about price gouging. And then, but before I do, let me leave you with this, because I'm telling you right now, this lady gets in office, you're going to have to hide your money. You're going to have to hide your assets. This is wealth protection research I want to talk to you about. With the volatility from this election and our national debt just breaking 35 trillion for the first time ever, there has never been a better time than now to consider physical gold or silver as a way to protect your savings. I'm concerned that if this election goes sideways, things are going to get even worse. The good news is there's something that you can do ahead of whatever future chaos might be coming. Wealth protection research, that's where they come in. They have found a gold partner in Sasco Gold that specializes in helping everyday Americans protect their retirement accounts like 401ks, IRAs or TSPs, using a loophole that allows them to convert into physical gold or silver, tax and penalty free. Their loot. Text the word truth to 76626 to learn more. Again, text the word truth to 76626. That's right. You can break free from your captive retirement account and enjoy the peace of mind knowing your retirement savings is now stored in physical gold and silver that you can control. I would suggest you speak to a financial advisor as to what amount you should take out to do to do that with. But if you're interested in learning the truth about how you can protect your retirement with gold and silver, you can get a free gold investment kit that explains it all from Sasco Gold just by texting the word truth to 76626. Drew from Sasco is standing by, waiting to help my listeners. Text the word truth to 76626. Tell Drew that Carl sent you. Again, for a free gold investment kit, text the word truth to 76626. One last video, number 5, please, Gabe, and we'll close it out with this.
First of all, on the talking about competition and standing up against price gouging is something that reaches out, I believe, to everybody. We saw very tough years after the pandemic with supply chain issues. But she didn't talk about. She was very clear about that. There's a huge difference between talking about competition and making sure that we address anti-competitive behavior
if you look
and
at
price
grocery
controls,
stores,
which
the price margins are only 1-2%.
And Josh, that's not what caused the inflation. So, and for you to say it with a straight face, it doesn't help your cause at all.
But Joe, talking about, as a capitalist, I believe in competition and making sure that there's actual competition.
Why didn't the corporations gouge for 40 years, if that's what caused it? How did it suddenly happen? They learned how to gouge 3.5 years ago, and it went to 40-year highs on inflation. And when you talk about unifying, being where you are, you may be unifying intra-DNC, but I can guarantee you that what we're seeing in policies coming out are not unifying policies. And you must know that in terms of the populist.
But Joe,
they're not unifying to me. They're very divisive.
Thank you.
Well, I think we'd all agree that the other side has been clear about burning down the house and taking a much more extreme perspective. That's all I'm saying.
No, we can't all agree. I don't think we're going to have to agree to disagree, because I don't agree. But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm just making the point that I think standing up to anti-competitive behavior
starts with "we can all agree." Thing. Every statement begins with "we can all agree." Okay. No, we can't. No, we can't. That sounds like
I'll say.
Go ahead.
No, I'm saying my perspective, if that's better.
Yeah, I love this guy. Squawk Box, I've heard of that. I've never listened to that. I love the fact that he's so adversarial. You're talking about 1 to 2% margins. Imagine running a business and you're paying 98 cents for the product so somebody can buy it from you for $1. You pay, as the business owner, 98 cents so someone can buy it from you for $1. That's price gouging. These people are freaking liars, and they would be a disaster, and they know it. She wants to eliminate the medical debt for millions. How are you going to pay for that? Remember, they lied about the jobs they were creating. The jobs report was downgraded by 818,000 jobs. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have been lying that they created. They want to cap prescription drugs, which will make drugs more expensive in the long run. These people are just economic illiterates. They want to give everybody $25,000 to pay for first-time buyers, which will make housing prices skyrocket. Because as soon as you give somebody $25,000, everyone $25,000, people are going to automatically say they can afford $25,000, hike up the price of the house, and it's going to go up even further because now you've got a bunch of people that have this extra $25,000 to burn that are going to want to buy the same house. So the person selling the house is going to say, I'm going to jack it up $100,000 because I can. These people are just idiots. Just freaking idiots. 3 million new homes. The federal government are going to build new homes? You mean contractors can't do it? I think they do it better than Kamala Harris. You're going to raise and I can't stand a lot of these corporations that are in bed with big government, that are in bed with the Democrat Party. But you're going to raise the corporate tax from 21% to 28%. Okay, fine. I'm going to have to pay more in taxes. So I'm going to raise my prices to pass it on to consumers. Oh, and by the way, since I have to pay more tax now, I have to pay the federal government that just blows our money and we don't even know what the hell for half the time. I'm just going to fire a bunch of people. That's Kamala Harris's presidency. If you think it's bad now, you ain't seen nothing if this chick gets in. Guys, I appreciate you tuning in to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Please subscribe to the podcast wherever you go to get your podcast. Until next time, don't grow weary doing good. God bless you.